If you're thinking to make a LinkedIn account for yourself, the first thing you need to focus on is your goals, like what it is that you aspire to achieve when you're on LinkedIn. But your LinkedIn profile is actually the first thing that your recruiter will look at. This is going to be like a 10-second procedure at the max, but it's going to be like a make or break for your profile. So, that you need a good network, you need a good presence, you need a good brand for yourself. So that's where LinkedIn comes into the picture. Not everybody has to be a LinkedIn influencer. It's literally dependent on what you want out of it and how you can sort of get that done for you. This is such a big architect, such a senior person is kind of just doing videos and reels on Instagram, is kind of doing talking about it on LinkedIn. Like, what are they getting out of this? They're literally getting a project out of it. They're getting inquiries out of it.
Hi everyone, we are back with our next workshop. So we have with us Saili Sawan for an interesting workshop on LinkedIn for designers. So let me give you a brief on what this workshop is going to be about. So LinkedIn has become an essential platform for designers to grow their professional presence and expand career opportunities. It's more than just a job search site now. It's a space to showcase your creative expertise, share your design portfolio, and connect with like minded professionals across the globe. By strategically using LinkedIn, designers can position themselves as industry leaders, engage with trends, and build valuable networks. So, I welcome Saili to guide us through the perks and ways of using LinkedIn for designers.
Thank you so much, Simran, for doing, a very sweet introduction, and thanks for having me, first of all, especially in a summit like this where, if topics like LinkedIn or say networking are getting discussed, I think we're in a good space now, finally, as
Right.
architects, because we've realized that if you just keep talking about how much you love buildings and what is a plan elevation section, it's just gonna, leave you at one single space for 15 years of your life. But if you just start being more assertive about what you want out of your career, I think maybe it will take you places. And I think LinkedIn does that. So thanks for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Okay. So whenever you think it's a good time to go, I can pretty much get started.
Yeah, I think we can start.
Perfect. So, everybody who's attending, I'm assuming that 70-80% of us are designers, are interior designers, architects, engineers, anybody who belongs to the AEC industry. And we've always been sort of kept in this notion that, you are supposed to be extremely passionate about what you do. It's not about the money, just I've had so many people, the boomer category, tell me that for 20, 30 years, don't think about the money. It's only when your hair turns gray is when you can aspire, thinking about money as an architect or a designer. But there are so many ways now, right? The world has changed. We've evolved. We're using technology left, right, and center for everything. And I think it's time that a topic like this gets discussed, which I'm very glad that a summit like this is doing. It's more about networking now. It's more about talking to the right kind of people. It has nothing to do with the fact that today you are working at one city, tomorrow you cannot go to another country altogether and work there. Things like these have become very, very possible today. And I feel a lot of it has to do with the networking, meeting the right kind of people through physical medium or through digital medium. So we'll just spend this 1 hour, which I hope you guys have your notepads or something to note down to, or like your screenshot button handy, your screenshot command handy, because there's a lot of data that will be shared with you at a very supersonic speed. But mainly it has to do with the fact that you may belong to any designation within the AEC industry. This will relate to you if you're a student, if you're an architect, 5 years in the industry, if you're not like 15 years in the industry, it doesn't matter. It's all going to relate to you, because more or less we are all looking for better opportunities, right? We're looking for better jobs, better clients, something like that. So I think the whole deck of what's in store that I've mentioned here is going to really help you as to how you can navigate LinkedIn to actually help you get better opportunities and also increase your pay scales, everything as a whole. So before this is the the boring part that we have to just go through. So a little bit about me. You can follow me on Instagram and on LinkedIn. Please do that, because this is what we're talking about today. To give you an introduction, I started out as an architect. I did my whole 9 to 5, actually 9 to 9. and plan elevation section, SketchUp and Revit and this and that, to realize that I'm actually very bad at it. I hate it to my core, and sooner to realize that I genuinely love writing. I genuinely love communication. I have a knack for marketing and public relations. So that's how I started. I started collaborating with a lot of brands who needed an architect who could do the marketing, who could do the communication for them. Slowly, I realized that there was a gap in the industry when it comes to somebody who understands the industry, and then it's sort of choosing to market this industry, you know. So that's when I realized that this gap can be filled by an agency, which I now call SS Communication. So at SS Communications, we collaborate with a lot of architects, designers, real estate developers, everybody from the real estate, lifestyle, luxury space, and kind of define the communication for them. So we kind of do it. We've done it for a lot of brands like Cocoon Rugs, we've done it for Talatin Partners, we've done it for a lot of brands which are related to soft furnishing like Yarns of the East. At the same time, I don't do this alone. I have a talented, very, very talented team of architects and designers. Everybody's an architect and designer in the team, and together we sort of navigate communication for the AEC industry. So what ends up happening is that we end up giving a lot of relevant solutions to the industry, which caters to the end client ultimately. At the same time, I have a very strong community on LinkedIn. I have 23,000 LinkedIn followers, and at the same time, I run a group which has over 10,000 members now. It's called Architectural Journalists and Writers Network. The group was created just because there's such a dire situation when it comes to writers trying to find jobs within this space, you know. So if there's anybody from the audience today who belongs to that side of the industry, I highly urge you to kind of just, you know, be a part of this group called Architectural Journalists and Writers Network. I'm sure we can, you know, find good opportunities for you. Coming to what we do at SS Communications, again, a boring part, but I feel that awareness has to just be out there. We do a lot of things, like we define digital strategy, we do website design and development, we do UI UX, we do content creation, marketing, public relations, SEO, content optimization, brand image management, brand strategy. These are just like some buzzwords being thrown at you, but we do all of this for the AEC industry, you know, for in the technology space, for lifestyle, retail, and a lot of fashion brands. So yeah, coming to now, the boring part has been done. This is something that many people ask me, that, you know, being an architect is a full-time job where we're talking like 12 hours, you know, we're putting into that job. It's not just like a 10-hour thing, especially when it comes to India or similar countries like that. So everybody asks me that why should we work on LinkedIn? Like, is it really worth it? Because in this fast-paced generation, we want quick results, right? And LinkedIn is not something that's a quick fix. So somewhere people feel that why do we need to target consistency in networking? Why is it such a big thing? But your LinkedIn profile is actually the first thing that your recruiter will look at, you know. So if you're sending in that resume, they will read through that resume, but if they really find it interesting enough, they're just going to go to your LinkedIn and just see through, get the vibe of who you are as a professional. What do they think about you? What are your thoughts? You know, so this is going to be like a 10-second procedure at the max, but it's going to be like a make or break for your profile. So, you know, that's where LinkedIn comes into the picture. And also the fact that if you want to catch a bigger fish, you have to fish in a bigger pond, right? You can't just be in that mindset, which was 10 years back, that I'm going to send 200 emails and then out of 200, 5 of them will reply to me and all of that. Those things are still active, they're still relevant, but if you aspire to have bigger goals, that today I'm working in one of the best firms in my state, then tomorrow your aspiration, if it is to work in one of the best firms in the country and then to work with the best firms around the globe, you cannot do these kind of jumps by a good resume alone. You need a good network, you need a good presence, you need a good brand for yourself. So that's where LinkedIn comes into the picture. You just have to, LinkedIn is that bigger pond where you will get a lot of fishes. So how many fishes we are talking about exactly? So there are more than 660 million business professionals who have LinkedIn profiles. And I kid you not, there are so many CEO, founders, managing directors, people from the upper strata of the whole corporate ladder who will not even have an Instagram presence for that matter, but they will diligently check their LinkedIn every single day. Like, they'll spend at least half to 1 hour every day just going through LinkedIn, just getting their information of the day. So, you know, we're literally talking about so many business professionals being active on a platform like that where they are easily accessible to you, where you can just approach them directly, so that's the number. So we are a word of mouth industry, right? That is what everybody has believed about us. Everybody thinks that, architecture is still a word of mouth industry. We don't need to depend on any social media, any validation, anything that comes out of digital media. But is that true? I mean, do you think so? Like in the recent times, I'm not going to take any names here, but you must have seen so many Instagram influencers, so many Instagram based architects and designers who are very open about what they do about at their work, so they will just post about this project that they've done and what it is about, and how did they sort of do it and everything. I kid you not, like all of these things you may feel like it's so funny that this is such a big architect, such a senior person is kind of just doing videos and reels on Instagram, is kind of doing talking about it on LinkedIn. Like, what are they getting out of this? They're literally getting a project out of it. They're getting inquiries out of it. You can just see the kind of growth that they're getting. So it's not just only because of word of mouth and PR. Instagram and LinkedIn, all these social media has a huge I would say a huge contribution in accelerating that growth. They're already good, but the growth is getting accelerated just because they're choosing to be active, choosing to be available, and choosing to tell their story. So that's what we're talking about. And there are some reasons why, the methods that we used prior to get our clients to get work are not working anymore. So repeat clients, earlier, whatever our method was of getting clients, one of the best methods was, you get one client and then you get one more project from the same client and then one more project from relation to relation. But the biggest problem about repeat clients is that you cannot increase your fees by a larger margin from project to project. If you're charging 10 rupees today, tomorrow you can't tell them that it's going to be 15. They'll be like, you did this for 10. How about, just because we're giving you a second project, how about you do it for 8? So repeat clients are not really a sustainable option as per se. Third party word of mouth referrals is again, somebody is going to have a notion that you charge an X amount of money. So you are going to stick to that bracket for a very long run. You cannot really increase that bracket. Next would be in-person networking events, like award shows, these physical events. Even today, that there are so many physical events that keep happening, but not necessarily everybody has the time or the availability to visit. Even IIDA Summit is happening virtually, right? It's much more accessible for you to consume all the information while you're on the go. So, even that doesn't work. And random walk-in and inquiries, the fourth option, is again not that relevant because people are not doing it anymore. So whatever it is, what was your client acquisition strategy 15 years ago, 10 years ago, is still happening, but it's not happening widespread where you can be 100% sure that this is going to work for me. So when it comes to LinkedIn, when it comes to developing your LinkedIn and why it needs to be done, I feel that these are all the reasons that I just shared with you, that all the older methods are working, but they're not exactly foolproof. They are not exactly sustainable as a firm. So when it comes to LinkedIn, you need to kind of make your goals. If you're a student, you need to define that, okay, why are you doing it? Like, what is the reason why I need to be on LinkedIn? If you are a founder of a company that's 10 years old, you must have realized the loopholes. You must have realized where you're lacking. So then you need to figure out and make a list that, okay, why are we doing it? So these are some of the goals that I've drafted for today, which we can focus on. The first goal that we'll be looking on is understanding some fundamentals, then coming to how to optimize your profile, coming to articles, connecting and socializing, a strategy, like a 30-day strategy I can give you, because I know everybody's going to be freaked out that, okay, she's saying we're supposed to get started on LinkedIn, but how? So, I'm going to give you that. And then some tools and automations and all of those things. So with that being said, here are some, in case if I feel I've not convinced you enough, I think I need to convince you more. So these are 7 reasons why you should be on LinkedIn, and I'm highly urging you to do it because I know that there's only benefit, there's no loss if you decide to do it. So first would be attracting new and better opportunities. Second would be, you can have cross city, cross state, cross country collaboration. We're talking about a very big radius of people that become approachable to you. Third would be networking and building sustainable relationships. So you cannot always have your friends, your PR work for you, but you need people from the industry who can support you during crisis periods or anything like that. Fourth would be multidisciplinary collaboration. Like today you're an architect, tomorrow you could design a carpet. You could design a sofa. You don't have to only stick to just one realm. So there's so many possibilities. Like even I know so many of my clients who worked for, the clients who work for rug brands, they actively seek architects and designers via LinkedIn to design rugs for them. So it's literally happening. The only thing you need to do is just be available. Just show people that you're open to opportunities. Fifth would be you can get, and this is for students, that you can get a lot of clarity by asking the right people your doubts and queries. Sixth would be opening doors to new opportunities, even you couldn't imagine. Like when initially I was on LinkedIn just to find jobs as an architect because I thought I have a graduation in architecture. I should probably do plan elevation section. And then one random day, somebody said that, we really like what you put out there on your LinkedIn. Would you like to write for our award company? And that's how I got my first ever job. At that point, I didn't even knew that there was a any demand for this kind of a thing that I thought I was good at. So we never know, right? Seventh would be it helps you establish consistent, reliable, and retaining processes for new clients and projects. Today you may have 5 projects for 1 year and you're happy, but you always need to keep kind of hustling, right? Even if you have those 5 projects, for 1 year you're sorted. Still there's this looming fear in your head that, oh my God, what if I don't get that sixth project or that eighth project? What will I do? But what if you had a lineup of inquiries already? What if after the third project is over, you already have bagged the ninth client that you're going to do? What if this becomes like a retaining cycle where you just don't have to worry? People just keep coming in, and there's a process in established for you in the back end. So LinkedIn that can be that kind of a back end for you where you just don't need to worry. Things just keep happening, inquiries just keep flowing in. So coming to the first goal that I've just said, the lead generation and the whole fundamentals of it. As a student, as a founder, anybody from the AEC industry, if you're thinking to make a LinkedIn account for yourself, the first thing you need to focus on is your goals, like what it is that you aspire to achieve when you're on LinkedIn. It can be anything, it can be a set of questions that you can ask that am I looking to position myself as a thought leader? Like all my sales, my marketing, my business development is sorted, but somewhere I feel that my persona or my firm doesn't have a brand status. So am I looking to launch myself as a thought leader? Or do I want to make direct sales? Do I want inquiries from my LinkedIn account for what it is that I do? Am I looking for jobs related to this particular niche in the industry? Do I want a personal brand? Do I want am I looking for investors for this new startup that I have in my mind, this whole thing? So it can be multiple questions that you first need to ask yourself, and you need to make like a set of goals, like write it down in a piece of paper that this is what I want to achieve out of my networking efforts. This is what I want to do. This is what my milestone is, something that I'm imagining, 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, that I do it consistently. It's very important because if you're starting with clarity, you'll exactly know what to do with it, right? So that is one. So I'm sorry to be all in a teacher mode right now, but I would really want you to do this task if you have the time after this workshop. It's more of like a self task, and I feel it will help you tremendously. Where you can just do that, like write it in these questions I've given. Just think about it and write on it, like your answers. What do you think you should do? In the process while you're writing it, I'm 100% sure you'll get a lot of clarity that, okay, this is what I feel is a lack, and this is what I want to solve if I'm on LinkedIn, or if I'm putting that much effort, my time in networking. Being that, you can also take a screenshot of this. So just to go about with the task, you can take a screenshot of it, and it will help you kind of understand as to what things like, is this particular location where I should target my communication? Is there a particular industry where I need to find people and connect with them? Is there a particular designation or title of people that I need to have in my connections? So all these questions will get sorted if you do the task. So yeah, I hope you've taken the screenshot. Which brings me to the second goal and the most important one is optimizing your profile for lead generation. This is slightly tougher than Instagram because Instagram asks you just for a one-liner bio. It's quite a minimalist when it comes to content, written content, but LinkedIn is like a maximalist when it comes to written content. It's slightly tougher than Facebook also because your everything has to be like a professional byproduct. So let's go with that. It's not as hard as it looks, but I would highly urge you that if you're someone who's hesitant to the idea that, oh my God, I cannot just start posting things, I don't know what to talk. I don't know how these people post content. I don't want to click a picture of my MacBook with a Starbucks coffee and then talk about something, I don't know, some world-changing ideas on LinkedIn, which is like the typical thing that people do, right? So if you're overwhelmed about doing all these things, you don't have to do it. What I would genuinely urge everyone to do is just keep your profile optimized, just put an effort on that. So with that being said, I would say that the first step would be to add a professional photo because it adds a lot of character to your account. Don't I've seen so many LinkedIn accounts that are made completed, but there's no profile photo. So many people, if you send connection requests, might suspect that it's not a genuine account. It just increases your credibility and it just personalizes it more. Apart from this, I would say that there's a space where you can have a headline which is similar to your Instagram bio but has to be done in a more professional way, where you can talk about your designation, and not just that, you can talk about how you're trying to help the industry or how you're trying to change something by your contributions in the industry that you operate in. It can be related to some keywords, your achievements, your awards that you've won, a collection of all these things that basically, if you had to be defined in one single headline professionally, what are the things that you would put in that headline, is what we're talking about. So if you can just look at the box on the right, the yellow box, it can be a combination of these three things. Like it can include your job title, how are you catering to the industry, and some bullet point on what it is that you do. So something like junior architect at XYZ studio, delivering bespoke interior spaces in the AEC industry. And then you can have these keywords like interior design, graphics, storytelling, speaker, something like that. So this is like a very basic example, but I've seen so many profiles where it's just, junior architect, XYZ studio, that's it. And then, but that's not the whole of your designation, right? You can't be defined by just a designation that you have at an XYZ place. You're more than that, like what it is that you're passionate about, what it is that you're trying to change. Like people like these kind of things, especially the recruiters. So if you give them more, they would genuinely appreciate the effort. Coming to some hacks, again, I want you to take a screenshot of this. This is just, some tools that I figured out while using LinkedIn. They just make your life a bit easier. So yeah, I hope you've taken a screenshot. You can try out these tools. Coming to the background, so I've just taken a screenshot of my own profile, for example. I've seen, like, if you are somebody who's providing a service, a product, or any kind of a solution, I would say that just create a nice background picture that has some textual situation which gives clarity on what it is that you do and the kind of services you provide. So if you can see in my background image, I've put like taglines. I've also put the kind of services I offer and what my specializations are. So it just helps when you are dealing with a fast reader. My target audience is mainly CEOs and managing directors and people from the upper management. So when it comes to that, the upper management doesn't have that kind of time, right? They're very busy in their schedule. So I know my target audience is busy. I know that I cannot ask them to spend 5 minutes just on my profile. It's too much of an ask. So how can I give them maximum of the info with minimal text and more impact? So, that has been my approach. Consider you have to put this logic in your field of expertise and then imagine that, okay, my target audience, what school of thought do they come from? How can I put my thoughts in the best and the most impactful ways possible? So that is your cue. And at the same time, you can, if you can see, I've put the whole tagline where I've given my designation. I've also used the word I help or I cater. So, people are aware that, okay, what exactly which industry, what kind of stuff does this person do, and everything. So, this is just like a very small example. I would highly urge you that you go through different profiles and see how they're dealing with their taglines. So this will also give you much clarity on how you should go about with yours. So a lot of things, like what can be the background text, as I said, that it can be a call to action, it can be the industry you work for, the services, some award that you won. It's like a free flowing thing. Something that you would like to brag about should be your background text. Coming to the summary section, which is just below, this profile image, background image, you have the headline, and then you have a very big space where you can write about yourself. So you can literally, if I'm not wrong, you can write 5,000 characters of text about who you are, what do you do, what's your mission, what's your motivation, what are the skills that you possess. So all of these things, it can be like a widespread description of what it is that you are set out to do, what have you achieved so far, what are the kind of services that you can provide. I see many people who are new to LinkedIn just ignore this section, whereas this section is the most important one. To give you one example, anybody who's looking forward to hire you, your recruiter, your HR, anybody is searching you through keywords. They're typing strategic keywords like architect, junior architect, project architect, senior architect, I don't know, things like Rhino 3D, Revit 3D. Typing these keywords to filter out the ideal candidates, and this is happening on a global level. So if you don't use such a potent space, which has 5,000 characters to write on, it's actually a very huge loss, right? So you need to use the space constructively and talk about, say, if you had 5,000 characters to define your entire journey, your professional journey so far, right? From what inspires you, what has been your achievements, what are your designations, what kind of change that you're bringing through your contribution in your industry. It's worth it. I mean, the effort is worth it. So just spend, I know this is going to take some time for you to create, but again, being a writer, I think this would not be the greatest of the advice, but I would say that you can use AI tools also, like just create like notes of all the things that you want to write, and then you can use AI to help it construct better. I would not tell you to resort on AI 100% because then every bio will sound AI. That's again a problem. But I would say that you can just use AI tools for assistance to just gather your thoughts if you feel it's too overwhelming to write 5,000 characters. So that is one. Next would be your experience section. I would say that don't just write your designation and your place of work. There is a whole space of 300 to 500 characters where you can describe what it is that you do. So don't just write junior architect at XYZ studio. You can write things like completed an X project in Y amount of time, did this, did that, this was my contribution to this is how I brought more impact to the workplace, completed 5 projects in the span of, I don't know, 3 years, or something like that, something in the workplace that you're really proud of, some change that you've brought in the workplace, what has been your contribution in that particular role, what kind of change that you've, brought about. So recruiters spend a lot of time, even people who want to hire you, investors spend a lot of time reading through this content where they don't care if you were the managing director at this XYZ company. They want to know more. Like they want to know that in that duration, what it is that you did for that company, what was your contribution. So that is where your experience section becomes very important, where you can brag. This experience section is just below your about section. And after that, there is one more section, which is your featured or add media section, where you can just add all the live links. You were a part of some YouTube video, you did some podcasts, you won a certificate, you won some award, there was some article that you or your project was featured in. Make sure that you're filling this featured section with all the links. It just adds that graphical credibility. Like people, if it's a fast reader, people would probably not prefer reading the whole about section, but if they see the featured section and they see like, okay, this person has got good PR and everything, so they'll be more than happy to get in touch with you. So that is one. Add languages, just more thing, like add languages, add the different kind of languages that you write, you can speak, you can write, the proficiency that you have in it. It just helps if you are especially looking for global clientele. They really care about the kind of languages that you're fluent in. Coming to the skills section, again, this is very important for students, for people who are new to the industry, freshers who are looking for jobs. If I'm not wrong, you can add like 30 skills, 30 to 50 skills. Now they seem to have increased the amount of skills you can add. So recruiters use this to find resources for them. So skills is like a very important thing where you can add everything from your soft skills to your technical skills. Everything can be just added there. These are just keywords that you have to search on all the skills that you know that you can do and handle. The next section is your recommendation section, which is a part of your LinkedIn profile, the main page. Recommendations is very important, especially I would say for people who are freelancers, people who have their own set of businesses, who are looking for investors. At the same time, they're also important for freshers and students, but I would put more weightage of recommendations on the three profiles that I mentioned before. It's only because when you are flying out on your own, people do care what other credible people have to say about you. So, for example, if you are an architect and you've done a commercial project for a very good brand, you can just ask the person that you were coordinating with to drop a recommendation on your profile about you as to how it was working with somebody like you, like what good you did and how was it, how was the experience. If it's a job well done, trust me, it adds a lot of value to it. Like I've received so many clients where say if I worked with one brand, I've done a good job, I've asked the founder to put in a recommendation. I've got another client who knows the founder, who knows that founder's work, and has got in touch with me just because they read the recommendation and they sort of trust this other founder who gave me the recommendation. So inadvertently they feel that, okay, if this trustworthy person has good things to say about her, maybe she's good, maybe I can think about hiring her. So all of this web, some more or less, helps you in a way, and you never know what might attract somebody to to get in touch with you. So you have to make sure that you're putting the best of the effort. So everybody from founders, business owners, people looking for investors, vendors, freelancers, I would highly urge that you spend time in getting recommendations from people you've had good experience working with. Coming to the next goal, and I know I'm emphasizing more on recommendations just because they're very, very important. So whom to ask? Like whom can you ask for that recommendation? I would say that anybody you feel is powerful, weighty, and authoritative in that niche or a particular space where you know that they have a lot of respect, they are looked upon for the good work that they do. Because what happens is, if somebody that weighty gives you a recommendation, people know that, okay, this person has that level of credibility. So if he or she is saying something nice about this person, at least 70% of that is true. So I would say that don't ask everybody for a recommendation. You don't have to have like 50 recommendations. Even if you have 3 recommendations from genuinely good authoritative people, your job's done. So it's more about quality than quantity when it comes to recommendation. You can also, I know it's a bit people might feel a bit hesitant, especially somebody who's just starting out in business, who's very young, to kind of go in and ask. But if you've developed a very good sustainable business relationship, and you have that trust factor where you know that if this person chooses to recommend me, it's going to be good because I have delivered something good to them. I see no point why you should be hesitant about it. So this is just like a boost that you should go about it. Options for getting recommendations, I would say that you can just check your connections. Just take a look at your whole connection list and take a look around. Say this one boss that you had 3 years ago with whom you still have a very good business relationship, whom you know that if you just go to them, if you text them and say that, I'm doing this and I need a recommendation, how about you just go to the link and write 2-3 lines on what it is that you liked about the work that I did for you. So it's more about that. And at the same time, you can also give recommendations. So when you become in a little bit senior position, if somebody asks you for it, you can also give a recommendation. What happens is, when you give good recommendation to some other person who's your junior or something like that, it just adds more value to your credibility as well. So it's like a give and take situation, which works both ways around. So this is just an example. Like if you want to take a screenshot, you can just go ahead. I thought that, if somebody out there, especially who's just starting out, is feeling shy on what to write on to this person that you want a recommendation from. So you can just take a screenshot of this, just I would say jazz it up a little bit your own way, and then just send it out there. I would say that please don't use the same thing because there's so many people live online already. So then, everybody's going to sound the same, but just jazz it up your way and then go ahead with it. So, yeah. Next goal would be how to be a part of LinkedIn groups and communities. I'm kind of emphasizing this as the fourth goal because many people feel that we just need to make an account, have connections, optimize our profile, and that's it. Many people feel that, oh, I don't want to be that kind of a person who posts on LinkedIn. I don't want to do these typical LinkedIn influencer situations. Like, I'm just not that kind of person. So I get that. I think 60% of us are belong to the school of thought, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I would urge you to be a part of LinkedIn groups and communities because it helps a lot, a lot. So, how can we do that? Let's figure that out. So LinkedIn groups are a dedicated space for professionals to where, you can just come about, share your expertise, seek advice, and create relationships. There are so many LinkedIn groups. Say you belong to the architecture industry, just within architecture, there'll be like 500 groups and communities already on LinkedIn for you to be a part of. But it's more like you choose to be the part of groups in a more intentional way, in a more self-selected way, in a more relevant way, rather than just sending your request to any random groups. So if you're someone who is passionate, who's an architect who is passionate about parametric architecture and specifically Rhino 3D, then you need to target three types of group. One that is general architecture group. Second would be something that's related to parametric architecture. And third, that is related to Rhino 3D specifically. So, that's how you will tailor things for yourself. And I kid you not, many of the recruiters, people who are looking to hire somebody like you, people whom you can hire related to your industry are a part of these groups. So, on a personal experience, to tell you one thing, I was having a very bad experience in recruiting my team recently, So that's when I realized that I was doing the mistake by putting the hiring messages all across LinkedIn, which was available to everybody, to all the 25, 50,000 of the people that are there in my connection. So that's where I was making the mistake, that I was getting 200 emails of why you should hire me, but none of them were that relevant. What I did was I instead went to my LinkedIn group that I have, Architectural Writers, Journalists and Writers Network, where I know there are 10,000 people, but those are the relevant ones. So when I put that hiring message onto that group, I got almost 50 emails, but all of the 50 of them were relevant. So this is just one example as to how you can just screen out the noise and get whatever it is that your intention is by being more intentional and being more relevant through LinkedIn groups and communities. So this is as much essential for students as it is for recruiters, business owners, freelancers, architects, founders, principal architects, as it is for students. And for students, I would say that there's so much relevant info that is shared in this group that is educational to you. So instead of reading everything that's there on LinkedIn, if you just follow what data is being shared on these groups, you look at the post and everything, that is more educational and beneficial to you than just being everywhere. So it's more about relevance and making sure that you're optimizing your time really well. So how to find these groups? I mean, it's very easy. Like in your search result, in your search bar, you can just type in relevant words, relevant keywords, and just see what kind of groups you have. So just as I gave you the example of parametric architecture, Rhino 3D, this can be your way of finding groups that are relevant to you, and you just have to send a request. Some of the groups are open to all, some of the groups are kind of you have to send a request and then somebody decides to accept you or not, so these kind of things. This is one. Yeah, other best practices. Now this is just like, if you're a part of the group, you have to make sure that you are contributing first. You're putting some post, you're listening and engaging with people, you're asking questions, you're being part of somebody else's comment section, just be an active member. And that's how, like, you can't just be just reading onto stuff. You have to make sure that you're contributing, so people always have it in their memory that, okay, I know this person, I know what he does, so that will always benefit you. This happened to many like some of the team members that I've hired, I was just putting this post on the groups. I was just sharing some posts related to architectural writing and journalism. And there were these two, three people who were always active on all of these posts, commenting. And whatever it is that were commenting, it was very value based. It was not something like, oh, nice post, good post. It had a lot of value when they were talking. So my first thing was when I was thinking about hiring someone, I directly approached these two, three people, asking them that, listen, I have this kind of a hiring requirement. Do you think you'd be up for that? And one of them is actually my team member today. So, you just have to understand the psychology behind it, that you have to be visible, you have to be relevant, and you never know what who might just approach you. And the same thing has happened with me when I was the one commenting, and then somebody thought that, okay, maybe this person sounds interesting. Let me just have a word with them and understand what they do. So just another thing. Here comes task two. Again, I don't mean to be a teacher, but I really hope that if you are deciding to spend an hour here, I should give you, your time's worth. So this is your task too. And I would genuinely say that maybe the next task that I'm telling you to do, just don't do it. But this is like a super, super mandatory thing that I would say that today's Sunday, right? So just spend today doing it, and trust me, it will help you a lot. A lot. So with that being said, we can go to the next goal, which is LinkedIn articles. LinkedIn as a platform, as you know, that Instagram didn't have Reels first. They saw that TikTok is doing better that way, so they started to do that. Then YouTube saw it. So every platform as a whole is now trying to be a self like an ecosystem in itself. It's trying to be a complete ecosystem in itself, where it can deliver 360 solutions to a user. So that's what LinkedIn is trying to do. And I think articles are very important, that in a way that, say tomorrow, I'm a recruiter, you're an architect, and or say I'm a future client that wants to hire an architect. So if I just search like sustainability architects on Google, and if you've written a blog that's related to that, and there's a keyword that somehow shows me on the search result on LinkedIn, I will be navigated to your LinkedIn article. I will read that article. If I like that article, I'll go to your profile. If your profile is already optimized, I will read through your profile as a customer, and I'll feel that, okay, maybe this person has substance, and then I might just drop an inquiry. So it's very beneficial for you to spend time on LinkedIn articles. Now this doesn't matter if you're just a business owner. It matters if you're a student, any person who belongs to the AEC industry. I would say that think about writing articles, LinkedIn articles related to your industry. As I said, there are many AI tools today. Again, I'm saying plagiarism is not entertained. AI tools, and even if somebody reads one sentence, they'll at this point know that if it's AI written or not, because it's that robotic. But if you there's so much help available right now. There's Grammarly to fix your grammar. There is Chat GPT to kind of make sure that you are getting everything right and together, to give you ideas, to be a partner in writing content. So I would say that, at least in this era that we are in, don't hesitate to write long form content on LinkedIn. So you can do lots of things. Like, if you are, again, I'll take the Rhino 3D example, the parametric architect example. If you're an architect, you specialize in parametric architecture, you specialize in Rhino, maybe you can write topics like five secret tips that nobody knows about Rhino, which kind of you realized while using it. These are unique tips which might help people to navigate it better, and you know it better just because you've spent so much time doing Rhino, right? So you can create a blog on that. You can create blogs on anything, like the pain points of the industry, what it is in the industry that is lacking, what does Rhino 3D needs to do more, or what is the issue with parametric architecture, or anything like that. Solution based articles, knowledge sharing articles. Just think that, okay, if something is bugging you, or just like, sometimes I just want to just put it out there, I just want to say it. So you can just put it nicely in an article and probably do it. So don't be overwhelmed. As I'm saying that, think about it, read a lot of LinkedIn articles while you're scrolling through LinkedIn today, and just get a feel of it. Maybe 1 month down the line, you may want to write your own article and publish it, but it helps. Like your writing an article genuinely helps, both as a student or a business owner, freelancer, anybody. So you can take a screenshot of this. This is just like a basic procedure that I have mapped out, just to break down the process, that if you're overwhelmed as to how should I go about it, how should I write an article. So this is just one like a 5-step process as to how you can do it. Next goal would be lead generation strategy, is very, very important thing. What I mean by lead generation, again, applicable to any starter, from students to freelancers to business owners, architects, founders, anybody. You have to, if you're doing this because there's an intention behind it, right? You're doing it to get clients, you're doing it to attract good recruiters, you're getting it to get good jobs, anything, getting a good client base. So you need to define your target group. What I mean by a target group is that the age group that is your audience, the location that your audience is based out of, the industry that they belong to, any specific companies that you're looking for, any title or designation, any size of the company that you're looking for. Like you need to just write it down that, okay, this is the range of people that I'm looking for. So, when you do that, you're not just talking to everybody, you're talking to a specific target group, and that increases your conversion rate, that increases your chances of getting that job, getting that work, getting that client. Next would be, as to who can be your target group. If you're an architect, I just take a screenshot of this, that these are the kind of people that can be your target group, which means that they need to be a part of your connection. You need to send them connection request. You need to have them as your followers. So, this is just like a broader category, and you can choose which one fits you the most. So yeah, this is just an example as to how you can search it. If you look at the right, you can just filter out. Like you can type categories, you can type keywords like principal architect if you're looking for principal architects, and then show results, and then send connection requests. So you can just filter things rather than sending random requests to anybody. It will just help you more, and your chances of getting accepted will also help. If you belong to the AEC space and you're sending a connection request to somebody who belongs to the health and medicine services, so then it's irrelevant, right? So that makes no sense. That person is not going to add any value to your connection. It's just going to be a number. So you definitely don't want that. Second would be connecting and socializing with the right people. So now that you've sent them that request, they have accepted your request. So now what do you do about it? How do you go about it? You can also take a screenshot of this. It mainly has to do with how you can build your network, where you have your optimized profile first. You start building that connections with people. You start sending connection requests. You define your target audience and then start adding them slowly. Like don't send up 500 requests a day. LinkedIn doesn't allow that. In a week, I think it allows 200 connections to be sent. So if you have a bandwidth of 200, be wise on how you want to spend that 200 in. So all of these things, you can take a screenshot and go through it. And another thing is when to message. Now that, say you're thinking that, say you want 15 people from the Emirates airline to be a part of your connection, and you have those 15 people in your connections now. Now you're just waiting to message them with your pitch or with something that you have in your mind on, uh, for them. So I would say that it depends on the staff, on the designation that they belong to. So if it's a senior decision maker, right, like an MD or a CFO or a CXO, they will take time to revert because they're very busy. So unless you are sending them something, sending a message that is really hook worthy, that is making them think or pause, they will definitely not reply to you. So you need to make sure that when you're messaging it and what it is that you're messaging, it has to be of that substance. It cannot just be like a hi, hello, I'm this and that. It has to be much more articulated than that. If it's a mid-position decision maker, like it's a manager or something like that, then you may want to engage with them first, have a small conversation, and then put in your thoughts as to what you have in mind. If it's a high-profile prospect, like a CEO, founder, anybody from the on a higher designation level, then they may take longer period and they may need more tactile approach. Like you interact with the things that they're posting before. You have some conversation prior to them. Maybe you've had a meet and greet with them somewhere at an event or award ceremony, and then you choose to drop them that LinkedIn message that, it was really nice talking to you that day at that award. So I had this thing in my mind. This is my profile. Would you like to have a conversation sometime someday about it. So it's more about the designation of the person that you decide when it's the appropriate time to kind of, send that message to them. So these are some connection request templates. I feel that if you want if somebody is very new to LinkedIn, I know that it might get really overwhelming, because when I started, people just started when I just started using LinkedIn. Many of my seniors told me that just drop this message to this founder that you really want to work with, and I was just like, no, I can't do that. I'm like, I'm very junior, and this person is like 30 years in the industry. I mean, I can't do that. So, I feel that somebody who's just starting out might feel that. So this one is especially for you. These are some templates. These are connection request templates that if you send a connection to somebody, how you have a very short bandwidth of writing 200 characters, which is hardly, you can write one or two sentences at the max. So this is just to give you an idea as to how you can go about it. Again, don't use this template as it is, but just to take out that fear from your head, from what you can type. So again, these are some screenshots that you can take. And yeah, I would say that if this connection really matters to you, if it really matters that this person should be a part of your follower list, connection list, then you have to put some effort in it. You cannot just put a follow request without a text. You can always add a personalized note like this, which will like the person will for sure read it and then take a call if they want to, you know, accept you or not. So it always helps to have personalized text sent rather than just sending a follow request. It always helps. So how to run a messaging campaign? Now this is also like somebody who wants to aggressively market their services. It's definitely not for somebody who's new to LinkedIn, who is not, if you're not up for, like, you need to be up for it. So that's why if for somebody who wants to run a messaging campaign, um, I would say that this is for somebody who is a vendor probably, or who is actively looking for client conversion. You have a service-based industry, you have a solution. For example, mine is a marketing agency, so I need to kind of constantly pitch to clients. Because I need to constantly onboard clients in a month. I have a target that, okay, these many clients I have to onboard every month. So that requires me to be much more tactile. I cannot just send one message and just relax for 6 months. I need to do. So if you belong to that, if you relate to this thought that I just shared, then, this is for you. So I would say that you need to craft an elevator pitch, like a pitch for them where you are talking. When I say a pitch, like a message on LinkedIn DM where you are talking about who you are as a professional, what information about you want them to remember has to be added. What are you asking them to do? Like what it is that you're offering, what are you asking them to revert you with, and what solutions do you offer? So you can put across your portfolio, your website, the material that would add more substance to that pitch as well. So you need to kind of put all of those together in one message. Like I'm not saying that send like 5 messages to a CEO. He's not going to spend any time on that. You'd rather spend like a crisp one message, and maybe keep a follow up every week on that as to what happened. So that kind of a thing. But doing it more professionally is what my agenda would be. So this is just an example. Again, you can take a screenshot of these as to what things can be sent on when you're sending that connection request template. How to message. Now, this is very important. Now, say tomorrow I want to work with this, say a brand like Minotti. It's a legacy furniture brand. If I want to work with Minotti and I have connected with somebody from Minotti whom I know is like an important asset there. So, I'll send a connection request with a personalized note always. That will be my step one. Second, once they have connected with me, I will send them a thanks for connecting message, which is more personalized with a subtle introduction of who I am, what it is that I do, and how nice it is to have somebody like you in my connection request. My step three would be I will wait for week 1 or even 2 weeks for that matter, so I don't look desperate, where I'll just send some work update message, something that's relevant to them, something that I know will resonate to them. It can be an article, it can be some thoughts, anything, but something that is not excessively flattery kind of thing. It's more like informational, it's professional, and impactful at the same time. Step 4 would be by week 2 or 3, I will start building a rapport with them. I might send some work updates that I may have done. So tomorrow, if I want to pitch them for me to work on a website for them, I might just send one website link that we've done that I'm very proud of, and I'll just send it to them and say that, this is something that we've done. This was the challenges that we faced, like a crisp message and something like, since you belong to such a big brand like Minoti, I'd love to know your feedback on it. So, I'm not doing flattery on anything. I'm just asking for a feedback, even though I have a certain kind of a business intention behind it. Step five would be that if you think that they would be up for it, if you think they would be interested in the services that you want to provide, then maybe I will schedule an appointment, a meeting, or a physical meeting with them, depending on the convenience of the person. So this is not like the staple formula that you should go about it. The formula will keep changing people by people. But I would say I've seen so many people who will, as soon as that person connects with you, they'll send a long message of a pitch as to what it is. So, what it is that you do, why you should hire us. So, that seems a bit desperate and that seems very cunning also. So, you have to be a bit articulate and a bit slow and strategic when it comes to especially messaging these big brands or something like that. So as a business owner, as a freelancer, this is for you. It's also for students who are looking to get jobs or internships or anything in like coveted places. So that should be your approach route. So again, some more templates, for you if you had to send a message 2 or 3 weeks after. I've kind of used them before, so you can just kind of customize it as per your industry. Again, one more template. So, how to personalize the interaction? I would say that make it about them and not you. Don't brag about yourself. Keep it authentic, keep it crisp. Don't give anybody to read a wrong essay. Literally, I'm talking every message to be 3 to 4 sentences at the max. Don't make any grammar mistakes. Like, that's a major no-no to do. We have Grammarly, we have so many uh, tools out there that can check grammar for you. Just spend time on it. It's hardly a 30-second job. Be patient. Don't expect somebody that just because you've sent a message on Monday, they have to reply on Wednesday. So you keep every day you keep sending 5 follow-up messages. Don't take that aggressive approach. Be very patient. Have terms like, I would love to know your feedback. I would love to know your thoughts. Like keep it kind, authentic, genuine. Like that's what we're looking at. And yeah, overall, that's the aesthetic that we should go for when we're personalizing an interaction with somebody on LinkedIn. As I've already spoken on what not to do, so I'm not going to spend much time with them on this slide. But I would say that always keep it relevant. Don't connect with someone who you don't see, who's not a genuine profile, or whom you feel is not relevant to the industry that you operate in. It's really not worth the effort. Again, a task four, you can take a screenshot of this. This is especially for everybody from the AC industry who's trying to grow LinkedIn. This task would help you a lot in defining, the process of how you can get more clients, get more recruiters to you. So taking it outside LinkedIn is also very important. What I mean by that is if you can set up Google Meets with them, Zoom Meets, Teams, chat. If you feel that this person is interested in your services, don't just keep on chatting. You can maybe book like a 10 to 15 minute small brief call with them to introduce yourself, to know more about them, to know more about what kind of services they offer. Just take it outside LinkedIn. You can also have physical meets with them. You can meet with these people if they are attending the same trade show or award show as you are. You can do a phone call. You can do cold emailing. You can connect with them in whichever phase you feel is feasible. So I would say that if you have a good rapport with them on LinkedIn, and if you think there's a strong possibility of growth from there on, you can just go beyond LinkedIn and have that connection with them. That is how it will convert, because LinkedIn is not again a conversion tool. It's like a connection tool. So that's kind of a thing. So how to get work using LinkedIn, like that's the main thing. And yeah, there are many methods. You can take a screenshot of this as we're running a little bit short on time. So you can do inbound leads, which means that you can grow your personal brand. You can do outbound leads, which means you can just have a go-getter attitude and approach people on your own through cold emailing, Then again, you have recommendation, job posting, network and community groups. I've spoken about that. The last part is on how to plan content for LinkedIn. Now, this is for everybody who is hesitant to post but wants to post and all of these things. So I would say that you need to first figure out if you want a good name or a personal brand. You can again take a screenshot of this. Not everybody needs to work on a personal brand. Not everybody needs to not do it. It's more about what you want out of it. Just because everybody is using these terms, we do personal branding for so many of our clients, but there are so many people who come to us and say that, I want to do this, but if it's not relevant to you, it's not relevant. You don't have to, not everybody has to be a LinkedIn influencer. It's literally dependent on what you want out of it and how you can sort of get that done for you. What to post or share on LinkedIn, again, please take a screenshot. I know you must be thinking that, oh God, I see so many content around me. What exactly should I post? So these are some ideas. You can just see that, okay, related to this idea, what can I post? Not everything has to be serious educational. It can be related to your portfolio, a day in your life, some milestones, anything, case studies. Just take a screenshot and see how any of these topics relate to you and how you can talk about them. When to post, I would say that minimum 2 to 3 times a week is needed. If you're not comfortable, once a week is also doable. But consistency is the main thing, more rather than how many times you should post. And again, make sure that 80% valuable content is being posted and 20% is promotional. If you do the vice versa, nobody's gonna, read it. So it has to be value based first. So yeah, this is just like an example. I'm not really going to spend much time on it, but this post actually got a lot of impression, 22,418 impressions. Again, as I said, this is a staple. If you put a MacBook, a coffee, and just click a picture and talk like big things, it just works. So if you want to start, you can do that. Obviously, this was the old me who believed in that, but I would say that this post genuinely worked because I had written something like, I don't mind working on Sundays because I feel that I get a lot of time and uh, space away from my clients who are not bugging me constantly with their calls to just focus on work and do it. But somehow I think it offended a lot of the workforce, where they said that you're kind of putting this negative culture of working on Sundays and all of that. And somehow it worked, and then the impressions and all of that. So the idea to tell you this is like, as you can see, even this post also got like 6,30,000 impressions. The first line itself was, my first paycheck was 15,000 INR for 15 articles. And I think that's somewhere people got shocked that, oh my God, this is just, she's getting, nobody should extorted, nobody should get paid that low. So you never know what works on LinkedIn for you. The thing is, you just try it out. And I genuinely kept it authentic, because for me, the intention of this post was that I started working at 1,500 for 15 articles because that gave me a start to my career. So somewhere that resonated with people, and that led to the impression. So the idea would be to just get started and keep doing your trial and error. A LinkedIn timetable, again, I'll keep it very quick because we're running super late on time. This is your daily LinkedIn plan. What you can do is that every day you can plan to add 10 to 20 new relevant connections. Follow, just connect with them. Share a content you like that you've seen on the link on LinkedIn. Put 1 or 2 liners about what you like about this content. You can like and comment people's post, engage with them, send 1 to 3 messages, hyper personalized messages to your potential prospect. You don't have to post anything. That's what I'm saying, if you're too shy to do it. But I think if you're not shy enough to do the 4 steps that I just told you, right, it's easy peasy, you can do that. For weekly LinkedIn plan, again, just these are the kind of connections you should target. It's mainly about daily consistency. Then one sudden day you realize that, okay, tomorrow I need a client, today I'm having a LinkedIn account. It's not going to work like that. So you just need to build for that day where you feel that, oh my God, the need has arrived. So now I need to actually push my LinkedIn ahead. So again, coming to the last slide, this is the conclusion where we conclude everything that we just spoke on. My long monologue, which I'm very sorry for, but I would say that please optimize your profile first. The main important steps, just be, that step enough is going to do a lot of things to you. Showcase your passion, share relevant content from your LinkedIn feed, grow your network, spotlight the services that you offer with the skills section. Follow relevant people, don't follow irrelevant people. I would say that publish long form content, publish articles, publish short form content whenever you feel you are comfortable. That's the main thing. But don't hesitate just because you feel that, oh, my English is not good, oh my God, this, that. Because you have AI tools, you have Grammarly, you have so much access to technology right now. It's literally not the time to hesitate. Don't plagiarize your content because that's not going to end well. Target consistency over perfection. It's important, adding 20 connections every day over just suddenly one day you're deciding to add like 200 connections. And yeah, the LinkedIn algorithm keeps changing. Right now, it's favoring video content a lot, but just be updated on what trends are happening. So, you can always stay ahead of the curve that way. With that being said, Simran, if you're there, just let me know if I can stop sharing my screen.
Hi, Siley. Yes, I think you can stop sharing this.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes. It was a really great session. I mean, every details of, using LinkedIn were really put very well and in a very detailed manner like you do. So I think every small detail of, how to even set your goal to how to optimize your profile, it was really set very well. So I think we have a question. It says, like, can you tell us if upgrading to LinkedIn Premium is worth it for better reach, or is it just another package?
I would say that, first of all, I'm so sorry, Simran. Thank you so much for your words. And before I answer the question, I just want to say that I've seen Simran when she started her career. So I'm going to brag a little bit about you here because, she, she started out as an architect and then decided to transition to the whole writing part. And you can just see, like, within 1 year where she is right now. So I just want to say I'm very proud of you. But yeah,
Thank
now
you so
I'm
much.
yeah, I'm gonna stop the emotional content and I'm just gonna answer the question by saying that LinkedIn Premium is good, but it literally depends on what your intention are. So there's like Sales Navigator, there's this Business Premium membership also. So just read through it. If you are somebody who wants to aggressively do client acquisition, then do it. But if you're someone who wants like one client 1 month, not worth it. The free version is good enough. But it gives you an access to a lot of people. So if you feel that you want to target a certain audience which is not reachable to you, then membership kind of helps you to just target that audience because you don't have to wait for them to accept your request. So that way, yeah. Also, you can see who's talking you. That's also a good thing.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think this answers her question. And yes, thank you so much, Siley, for sparing out this time for us and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you so much, Simran.
Yes.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.